simulated placements for nursing and AHP. Over to you both.
Hi there, good afternoon everybody. We're on camera for the moment so you can see what we look like, but we'll put a slide deck up. So get a good look at us while you can, because I'm just about to put a slide deck up. So I'm Natasha Taylor, lovely to meet you. I'm speaking with my colleague Laura Stromidlo today. So Laura, if you want to take it away, I will now go on mute and put the slide.
Thank you, Natasha. I will defer to Natasha on the technical part and actually the theory underpinning what we've done thus far at Coventry. So we've come together really, I think there's what we were doing and the plans pre-COVID, and then how actually this project has gathered momentum because of COVID really. So we've got some objectives for what we hope that you will get out of this, and obviously questions at the end will probably be best. But yeah, we're going to give you a brief introduction to the concept and theories of VSP, and I think safe to say, you know, there was what we knew pre-COVID and what we're gathering information on as we go along, and this does apply to allied health as much as it does nursing. It's for everybody, but I think for nursing we have our new professional standards. They're not that new, but again, trying to sort of deliver on those during and post-COVID is quite challenging in the space where we're at now, but equally so for allied health. So we're also going to give you some examples of the virtual patients, environments and situations in which we've used this tool thus far. And the whole idea really is that we're sharing what we've done. We hope it's best practice, we think it is, you know, so that to enable you to go away and create your own, or give you ideas to start thinking about how you may use this. Okay, thank you. Is this over to you now, Natasha, for defining what the tools are? Muted, Natasha.
Sorry, hopefully you can hear me now. Laura, can you hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Perfect, thank you very much. I've got a very noisy dog here, so I have to put myself on mute, otherwise you'll get partly me, partly Laura and partly my dog. So what is virtual simulated placement? Well, there's a very long sentence here. This is the official definition. So it's the use of browser-based virtual environments to simulate patients, clients, users and colleagues to develop proficiency capabilities by working through lifelike challenging situations. That's a mouthful. What does that mean? Browser based, all we mean is you need some sort of internet enabled device to access it. We realized very quickly that we didn't want to create anything where the student needed specialist equipment. So you'll see on the right side here, there's a super duper headset and handhelds. Yes, we do use those, but what we say is students don't have to have that particular piece of equipment because it's unfair and inequitable. So everything we create, our learners can access from any technology enabled device. So a smartphone, a tablet, a laptop if you're an old person like me, or if you do have a headset, you can look at it via a headset.
Natasha, I think the slides popped off when you were muted yourself.
Oh, okay.
Pop them back in.
Please give me a shout if you can, when you can see my slide deck.
Coming through now. Lovely, they're up.
Thank you very much. So what I was just saying there is all you need is an internet enabled device. You don't need any specific equipment. You don't need any posh headsets, but you can look at these virtual environments, virtual patients through a headset if you happen to have one anyway. Evaluating it, the vast majority of our students, no surprise, take part in the VSP on smartphones. And that's not a huge surprise really, is it? The youngsters tend to use smartphones nowadays. So what is a VSP? All it is a virtual placement. We have a roadmap that is takes you from the very start of the placement to the very end of the placement. This is quite a busy slide. I think the key thing from this is we create virtual environments. We create virtual people. That doesn't necessarily have to mean a patient. It can be a client, it can be a user, it can be a colleague. And we have a virtual collaboration tool that we call Cov Collaborate. So anything that you see with Cov in front of it generally means Coventry. So that's our roadmap. But we have a very clear development pathway. Again, you don't need to look at this. There's lots on it. What we're trying to say with this is it's not just, hey, let's all sit round and create a virtual simulated placement. We have very clear considerations, standards, boundaries, mapping, design, platform and rollout to get there. So all the work that we've done in VSPs, all the 2 years that we've been doing this, really boils down to this one roadmap here. This is a how to build, create, roll out and evaluate a VSP. If you want to know a little bit more about the individual parts of this, just give Laura and I, send Laura and I an email, and we'll be happy to talk about this. I'm just going to click on with this because I'm aware that we've got a limited time. What I would say is we've got 20 minutes to talk about something that we could probably talk for 5 hours about. So this really is a whistle-stop tour. So what do our virtual patients look like? Whatever we want the patient to look like. So they are an accurate reflection of what our patients are. So we look at demographics. So what type of patients would there be in an area? So Laura and I are working on an ED placement. So that's fairly straightforward. We just look at the ED presentation and admissions for the area. We look at the demographics of the people. So in terms of gender split, age split, cultural, ethnic backgrounds, and we put situations to those people. It's as simple as that. Now, in terms of what we use, well, it depends on the situation. So sometimes we use a virtual patient. So where it's unethical or immoral to use, say, for example, a child, we'll use a virtual child. Sometimes we'll use service users. Sometimes we'll use the subject experts. We have a whole range depending on the situation.
I think as well, sorry, Natasha, for us with nursing, when we got our BSc and our MSc blended adult nursing awarded as part of the HEE bid monies, we really embedded this in a course-based approach. And we managed to get 480 hours of this type and another type of simulation approved. And that's been invaluable. We actually have used this in our child placements under the NMC emergency standards as well for quite a significant, I think we did 2 weeks for them.
Absolutely we did. Yeah, absolutely we did. New exciting innovation because not only have we rolled this out, we've been doing evaluation and research on this to see what went well, what didn't go well, what can we do in the future. And we're just working with a company now on creating artificially intelligent patients, because most of these, you ask the patient a question, they give you an answer back. And then depending on your answer, another answer back. That's very limited in terms of algorithms. So we're working on a set of AI patients. That's very exciting. So watch this space. So I think, sorry, Laura, I can hear you. Can I just say one of the key learning points, and then I'll close this down, and then we can, you can ask questions. What I would say is there are key learning points from this. And I think one of the key learning points here is to have a plan or a roadmap on how to create each VSP. What we did first of all is we got a whole load of people around a table and said, well, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And it's competing issues, and it didn't work. We need a clear plan or a roadmap. Make each experience as close to real life as possible. But link those VSPs to standards. So I don't necessarily mean just the NMC or HCPC standards. I mean things like the HEE Digital Capabilities Framework and the QAA Digital Learning Taxonomy. And perhaps the key part of this, and one thing we've learned, and we keep bashing, don't we, Laura, is the content should drive the technology. The technology shouldn't drive the content. So don't think, oh, I've got a bit of equipment here or a bit of software. What content can I put to fit that? The content should always be the driver. Sorry, Laura.
Yeah, so we did our first VSP on the MSc blended adult nursing course the other week, and we found that aligned to our practice assessment document, the MyPad that you heard about from Abby earlier, we managed to cover 14 proficiencies out of the 29 in just 3 case studies. So the students were working away using Cov Collaborate asynchronously for 2 days. We pulled it together synchronously with a registrant facilitator, that was actually myself, and the CD for the MSc, because I was nosy, I wanted to see how it worked, immerse myself in it, and service users. And that's the bit that really helps with the professional body and meeting your standards, because the students presented using SBAR, the case studies and the assessments of the patients, so we could see that their learning had happened. We fed it back into their practice assessment document, ready for them to take out there on their real placement, so it can augment, complement, not ever replace real life practice assessment, but certainly during these times we've never needed it more than now, I think, really, and our child version of it absolutely showed that. And you know, the future, we are really looking at this, but always learning how to make it better. Yeah, because some of the theories are yonks old and they're not fit for, you know, where we are now.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. I've noticed I've been keeping an eye on the chat now. I've taken down the slides. I felt like Chris Whitty there. Next slide, please. Next slide. This is rolled out across pretty much our whole school. Although it's, you know, deeply embedded in nursing, it's used across the vast majority of our courses, because I've just noticed that our dietetics colleagues are on the chat, and they were one of the early implementers for the VSPs. So it's not just nursing, I would say. Actually, everybody can use this. We've even got an MDT, virtual simulated placement, which brings a whole load of AHP professions together. Thank you, Laura. Have we used VSPs for midwifery? We have suggested VSPs for midwifery. There's no reason via evidence that midwifery shouldn't use VSPs, but we know that the NMC are slightly more nervous, shall I say, about using VSPs for midwifery. But that's a very good question, Tina.
Yeah, I think Delia's put there about it helping with the parity of experience. Undoubtedly, not every student gets an emergency department, placement. What we've also found is from the first couple of tries out of this with nursing is that it increases the preparation for, you know, students going out there into practice, because, as Carla says, they're getting more time to reflect on, practice handover, things like that, us challenge their underpinning knowledge in a safe environment, you know, and listen to the service users feeding back about how things went too.
Yeah, absolutely. What I will say is, well, it's very interesting, Jan saying about very hastily put together. There is no doubt ours at the beginning were very on the back of an envelope, everybody sitting around a table saying, oh, what should we do? What I would say is use our blood, sweat and tears to make yours better. We know the pathway that works for us. And if it works for you, we're happy to share it. We have a couple of papers out there already, so a lot of this is trying to push back against colleagues, dare I say. So what works is, hey, here's the evidence to show this works. We know from our initial evaluation of it, students rate it highly, which we'd expect that, because if you said no placement or virtual placement, of course they're going to say virtual placement. But I think the really important thing for us is that the outcomes are the same, if not better, versus face-to-face placements. Now that is the exciting.
Yeah. And we've got to be in there driving the research. You know, we will be going through ethics. We will be taking this forward. We've got a couple of PhD students attached to the blended. We've got our own staff that want to take this forward. It's key. We should be doing more of this. Yeah,
absolutely. And that, I think that pulls into Jackie's question. Thank you, Jackie, about how can we grow this. The good thing about virtual placements is it's eminently scalable. The site that we use can take 2 million individual users at any one time. So the likelihood of all 2 million learners all going on at the same time is highly unlikely. Whereas, of course, placements, you know, if you're round a bed, there's only so many learners you can get round a bed. Whereas in a virtual placement, you can just grow exponentially, and you can give the learners definite experiences. So how often do we say learner A and learner B? Learner A goes to a placement, sees nothing. Learner B goes to a placement and sees everything. Well, how is that equitable? Because learner A is not having a very good experience, learner B is having a great experience. The good thing about this is we can give them both the same experience. So I think I have another question coming through about communicating with patients, and I think this is where the AI, Laura, I'm talking a lot, so I'll be quiet now, about our artificially intelligent patients. I think that's where it absolutely is key, where you talk to a patient and they learn and talk back to you, so they can communicate just endlessly and develop those key skills.
If the students don't ask the right questions of the artificial intelligent placements, they get no communication back, so they can't move on to the next phase of their patient assessment. However, for nursing, and key to our professional body approval, was the synchronous session with the service users. Yes, it's more resourcing in terms of staffing, but it's key to pulling it all together. They've used the tools, now do they understand it? And actually really shines a light in this environment on their communication skills.
Absolutely.
We feed that back into their practice assessment documents, ready for the practice assessors to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Remember, this is an add-on. This will never replace placement. So, we have people saying, oh, well, can we do a virtual placement for cannulation? No, we don't have the technology for this at the moment. So, but there are certain things that this is just perfect for. And it keeps coming up in the chat here is communication. This is just perfect for that.
Yeah, and Carla, with the dietetics example of this, budded their year 1 students with their year 3, so that there's lots of peer support and senior peer support there as well. Yeah, with hidden benefits.
Absolutely. I'm aware we only have 2 minutes left, so if anybody has any other questions, to want to put it in the chat or put their hand up. I'm aware this is a very, very quick tour of VSP, and we could probably talk about this all day, couldn't we, Laura? Exactly,
we could. That's why we're bouncing back and forth.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know that Jackie put about, so how do we scale this up now? I think it is a challenge. It is about looking at how maybe it's about talking, further conversations, but also people thinking about how would they use it, where would they choose to use it, at which points of the course.
Yeah, absolutely. What I would say is please do get in touch. I've put our email addresses in the chat, but it's just our first name dot surname at coventry.ac.uk. So that's Laura, Stramidlo, Natasha, Taylor. Please do get in touch. Yeah, we'd love to hear from you and share some of our learning.